This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated. Jihadi, Psychopath by Dr. Jamie Glazov. I will tell you as an expert on Sharia, as a former child bride who has suffered and faced my own jihadi psychopath, I want you to go and order this book on Amazon.com or go to jamieglazov.com. Get a copy for yourself. You know why? Because you need to be equipped with the knowledge to fight our enemies so you can save your daughters and your granddaughters from future of Islam.
Good evening. Welcome to the Jamie Glazov Moment. Tonight, Jihadi brides beat children with cables. A Yazidi girl's nightmarish story. Ladies and gentlemen, these Jihadi brides, quote unquote, are in the news, and recently, especially so. And the establishment media, believe it or not, is on their side. And we see a lot of these arguments, the demands that these Jihadi brides, why I keep putting this in quotes, is I have a little bit of difficulty with this label. But I'll talk about this in a minute. But, you know, we see this demand that they be allowed to return to the United States and to the United Kingdom or whatever Western country they're from. And they were just these naive, impressionable girls, and they went just to go get married with ISIS terrorists. And whoops, now it's all over, and they just want to come back and, you know, watch Real Housewives of New York and, you know, and just live the American life again. The whole thing is very bizarre to me. I just want to say before I get into what I want to talk about, it's incredible what happens when the left owns the boundaries of a discourse. Like, tell me if I'm wrong and if I'm confused. I don't know, like, this debate, should they be allowed to come back? Like, that's the debate. In my mind, look, when you're sitting in a room or in a house and a young Yazidi girl is being gang raped day in and day out and tortured and then beheaded and murdered, and you're sitting there, you know, watching like maybe beheading videos, and then you go make a peanut butter sandwich for your husband while all of this is happening. And this, you know, this is the least of it. I mean, what else were these Jihadi brides doing? We know a lot about it. Like, these are war criminals. These are aiders and abettors of genocide, of rape, of murder. Am I wrong? And whether I'm right or wrong, I don't understand. Like, we see Michael Cohen in front of this whole committee I was watching the other day. You know, as we know, Michael Cohen, and there's all these people asking him questions. Where are the Jihadi brides? They should be behind bars, like in some kind of a, you know, in some kind of a cage, shackled. And there should be people in judges' uniforms, or, you know, some kind of prosecutors or something. There needs to be some kind of court, you know, like the Nuremberg trials, and start asking these Jihadi brides questions. That's the committee hearing that should be going on. Were there Yazidi girls in the household being raped while you were there? Were any beheaded in front of you? Who was beheaded in front of you? What girls were enslaved in front of you? How? Why? Etc. What is your belief system about this? Why did this happen? How did you participate? Where is the court trial? Where is the, you know, instead they're being, some of these Jihadi brides are being like interviewed by like some journalist for some television station. There should be an international court trial. And the debate shouldn't be about whether they're allowed back to live a normal life again. The debate should be what penalty there should be for aiding and abetting genocide, for aiding and abetting rape, for aiding and abetting this terrorism. And then there needs to be a debate about what the punishment should be. Am I wrong somewhere? Am I confused somewhere? I don't know. And I mean, whoops, I'm going to say it. I guess we might get banned off Facebook and off Twitter and off YouTube. I'm going to be such a racist right now by saying this. If the jihadis and the ISIS rapists are constantly referring to Quran 4:3, Quran 4:24, Quran 33:50, if they're referring to these surahs to sanction and justify having slaves, the captives at the right hand, and justifying raping these kafir girls, shouldn't the Quran be brought up? Shouldn't the Islamic ideology be brought up? It's just a question. When an ideology buffers genocide and rape, shouldn't that ideology also be put on trial? It's just a question. But you would think that now would be the time, after all of this has happened, that not only the ISIS terrorists and these jihadi brides are put on trial, but that the ideology should also be put on trial and spoken about. No? And I can hear the criticism right now. Jamie is instigating hatred of Muslim people. Oh, he hates all Muslim people. This is a crock. This is BS. We love Muslim people. This has nothing to do with Muslim people. We stand for Muslim people. Aqsa Parvez, Shaima Alawadi, the Saeed sisters, Amina and Sarah, these poor Muslim girls that have been the victims of honor killing. We stand for them every day at the Glazov Gang. We stand up for Muslim girls that are the victims of honor killings, the victims of female genital mutilation. We stand for all Muslim people that suffer under Islamic law. What we're pointing to is an ideology that inspires and sanctions jihad, and jihad is sex slavery. So I just want to, there's a little bit of my tangent there, but I just want to tell a quick story. Okay, now the story I want to talk about is a Yazidi girl, and this has recently been in the news, who became pregnant at the age of 10 when she was trapped as a sex slave under ISIS. Okay, and Robert Spencer, who's always doing a magnificent job, thank you, Robert Spencer, for covering all this at Jihad Watch. And he has a story at Jihad Watch, and I credit this segment to his blog on this. It's titled, Pregnant at 10, Yazidi Girl Trapped as Sex Slave in ISIS Capital, Children Beaten with Cables by Jihadi Brides. Now this is what I want to get to. Now, the seizure of these infidel girls, and they were exploited as sex slaves. It's very important that this is, as I said, sanctioned by the Quran. And Robert Spencer has documented this. Look into his blog and his writing on this. The Quran 4:3, 4:24, 33:50. The taking of these sex slaves and the raping of these sex slaves is also buffered by and sanctioned, not just the Quran, but in the Islamic tradition, in Sahih Muslim, for instance, 3371. This is very important to bring up. Now, Spencer's blog is based on the UK's Daily Mail report that came out recently on a Yazidi girl whose name is Marwa Kedr. And I want to talk about her tonight. She was pregnant at just 10 years old. As I said, she was trapped as a sex slave in the ISIS capital, Raqqa. And her aunt, by the way, has been able to tell a bit of her story. Her aunt's name is Maidia. And her aunt has revealed that children were beaten by cables by the jihadi brides that were participating and aiding and abetting everything that was happening to these poor Yazidi girls. And that many of these young girls were raped by over and by about 100 men in some of these particular cases. Now, in this particular story that I'm talking about, this young 10-year-old girl, they were captured in Iraq, and ISIS had rounded up all of the families at gunpoint. And the men were buried alive in a mass grave, and the women and children were taken into slavery. Now, the story here is about Marwa, this 10-year-old girl. Now, what I'm trying to get to here is pointing out the horror going on, but the whole time remember that jihadi brides, war criminals, were there the whole time. And we need to have a court trial about this. They were there while all of this is happening. What was their role? Now, Marwa's aunt Maidia, again, recently escaped from ISIS. And she has told, and she has shared that the last time she saw her niece Marwa was that she was huddled with others in a slave market before being taken to the jihadi capital at the time, Raqqa. And she says that there are many, many girls like Marwa. Now, there's also a former teacher, a Yazidi teacher who ran away. Her name is Zaid Avdal, and she now runs safe houses for Yazidis that are escaping ISIS. And she talks about how these young girls, again, many have been raped by over 100 men before they became pregnant. My question is, while this gang rape and these 100 men or 50 men or 150 men, whatever the number, we know that this gang rape is going on and this torture is going on and on and on. What are these jihadi brides doing during that time? Well, we know some of the story. So this particular teacher, Zaid, and who's running these safe houses now, has told of how many of these girls are frequently sold, assaulted, forced to marry several times. They're also threatened with having their family members raped. Like a lot of the mothers are threatened that their daughters will be raped by older men if they don't do certain things and get married, etc. And they're seeing them overall, everyone included is seeing the young girls being, and women as well, but the story being told here is that the young girls like Marwa were constantly beaten with cables by the jihadi brides. So keep this in mind. Get this into your head. These jihadi brides have cables in their hand and they're beating the young Yazidi girls. And these are the women and the young girls that we just want to let back into our society. They should just be able to come back, and they're beating these young girls with cables. And this is the least of what they were doing, because imagine what else was going on. And so again, this teacher who has done an interview recently, she said that many of these prisoners talk about how if they disobeyed, that horrible things would happen to their family members. Now, some of these girls that have escaped, and this teacher also talks about how some of these people who have escaped talk about how they were actually forced to eat sticks and animal droppings just to stay alive. And many of them survived and are now telling this horrible story. So I just want to end with this. I wanted to tell this story tonight and go to Robert Spencer and just look up jihadi brides and talk and look up beaten by cables, jihadi brides beating children with cables. Just Google that, Robert Spencer, and you'll be able to read about all of this. Who are these jihadi brides? I think I've covered it quite well this evening. We can go on. But look up this name, Hoda Muthana. H-O-D-A, Hoda, M-U-T-H-A-N-A, Muthana, Hoda Muthana. This is one of the jihadi brides. Look up Hoda Muthana and Middle East Forum. They've done some very good work on this jihadi bride. Now, this particular jihadi bride, several years back, had been sending out tweets encouraging her fellow Muslims to kill kufirs, to engage in truck jihad. In other words, to get in a truck and drive people over, and kafirs over, of course. We're talking about truck jihad. And guess what happened over the last few years in France, in Germany, in Sweden, in England, in Spain, in Canada, in the United States? Truck jihad. So when you've got a jihadi bride by the name of Hoda Muthana instigating and calling for truck jihad, and then truck jihad is carried out, shouldn't there be some kind of a committee hearing, and with this jihadi bride being interrogated? Shouldn't all these jihadi brides be brought before some of the committee? I think I've already talked about this, but I want to see it done. I want them to be asked what they were doing, who they were beating, how they sat there while little girls were being raped, what they were doing at that time. And then God forgive me for even suggesting that maybe there should be the discussion of some kind of punishment for these war criminals. We are not going to hear from Chelsea Handler and Kathy Griffin and Joy Behar about this, but they're for women's rights. But we know where the left stands on all of this. Wanted to talk about that this evening, ladies and gentlemen, and make some noise about it. These are not jihadi brides, quote unquote. These are war criminals, and their hands are soaked in the blood of innocence. And something has to be done in terms of justice. Not sure what it should be, but let's start having a discussion about it. Thank you for joining the Jamie Glazov Moment this evening. We'll see you soon. Good night.